big problem, simple solution. What we find is that a lot of people don't have the structure, they don't have the system, and they don't have the process to execute daily. And a lot of the issue is that people think that they know how to follow up properly, but in reality, their familiarity to follow up doesn't mean they're actually excellent at it or necessarily even close to being a master at it. And so because they think they're better than they actually are, they actually don't treat it as a priority like they should. And so it ends up becoming a secondary or third tier type of item that they need to do next.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by Manny Vargas, who is that follow-up guy. Actually, Manny, I never told you this. That's how I have you in my phone. So that little tag that you have, that really works because, and by the way, for the people that are listening, he is that follow-up guy because he hounded me until we actually got a meeting. So, Manny, thank you so much for joining us and for being on the pod today.
Of course, brother. Let me ask you a quick question though, man. Did my hounding come across as desperate or pushy, brother? Or was it just
It was
healthy
fun,
man?
You sent me a couple funny GIFs and I was like, okay, I already like this guy. Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, we were just warming up, brother. If you would have waited some more on me, I'd have came back with some more ammunition. You would have had no chance but to say, let's roll.
Yeah, I'll try to ghost you a couple more times and see how that goes. So anyway, Manny, my first question is always the same. Tell me who you are and how we got to where we are today.
It's fun, man. I've been in Vegas my whole life, born and raised, so I always like to set the story up that way. I feel blessed to have had that run. It's been an interesting run. The earlier days were a bit rough. Had a lot of early disappointments. My mom passed away when I was very young, which is never a favorable situation to be in. Had a couple of near-death experiences. Anybody that can get close enough to me and stand in front of me sees a big scar on my face from a car wreck that I was in when I was a young man. And then baseball saved me right around the same time that my mom passed away. And I played that for about the next 9 years before finishing that up in San Francisco. I came back to Las Vegas and I started working in hospitality for more or less better half of a full decade. So I did that. In the middle of that mess, got addicted to gambling, drugs, partying, good times. And I always had this bug inside of me to be an entrepreneur and figure out if there was some options for a future that way. And everything that I got involved in, and at that time in my early 20s, coming back to Vegas after baseball, it was restaurants. So I ended up opening up 3 restaurants in my mid 20s. Short-lived, lost those all really quickly. Taught me a lot, a real heavy amount of what it's like to be in the trenches and get your butt kicked. And then after that, had to kind of get back into the real world here in Las Vegas, more jobs, tried more businesses. But problem was I was still a hot mess, man. And I couldn't control myself at the level that I wanted to, was still going out partying, drinking, doing drugs every night, chasing girls, working in the nightclubs. And so right before my 30th birthday, I ended up getting sober, man. And that was kind of the big pivot point for me, Andrew. And at that moment, everything changed. Everything, it was like this big dead weight that I was carrying on my back for so long just evaporated. And while you don't know what you're going to do next, you're just committed to the destiny, and you're committed to the future self of yourself that you know is in there, but you got to go find them. And so that process led me from one personal growth video to the next podcast to all the exercises and all the practices and all the conferences, and just kept leading me. And through that, I ended up writing a book on my life in Las Vegas and overcoming that whole background of vices. I started podcasting myself, and then shortly thereafter, I ended up traveling the country speaking for 2 years, and really getting a kind of a master's on communication from a platform. And I'd never done any of that before. It was the first time, dream come true type of situation. Came back to Vegas, started working at Brad Lee's company here in the phone room. Shortly thereafter, starting there, I went off and started running the celebrity division inside the company, working with public figures in Hollywood. And then right around 2020 is when I pivoted to start doing some of my own stuff. But it was real tough then, man. I got into a relationship. I didn't really know who I needed to be for my future, for a wonderful woman. So that was really tough to overcome a lot of that. And then I still didn't really have a true entrepreneur identity after having got my ass kicked from about a decade before that. or, what was it, 7, 8 years before that, trying to find my way again. So I did a lot of different types of consulting gigs, live events, which is how I met David and Jason, and kind of just flirted in those areas to keep the lights on, the bills on, while I kept pushing through, and pushing through. And then last summer, from today, had an exciting event happen. Not really, but my wife and I were having a pretty eventful road trip across the country. A lot of stress, a lot of problem, and we arrived in Florida after a cross country road trip, after pit stopping in Houston, Texas, after a hurricane just barreled through, and literally the hurricane was barrel, which is kind of funny in terms of the words I'm using. And in that moment of my wife and I, and my dad and my son getting to Florida, I basically said, "Hey, listen, we're not in a good spot right now. I should go home, fly back to Vegas, and take a break, because we're not going to really make it. I'm not sure if we're going to be on the same page, and we'll even have a marriage after this." So we left Vero Beach. I and my dad went back to Orlando for a couple of days before our plane got ready to head back home here to Las Vegas. And what happened was I just started reflecting, man. I started reflecting really deeply about if I was doing what I should be doing. Am I happy? Why is my marriage potentially on the break? Or should I say on the brink of breaking up? And in that, I found this moment where I realized that follow-up for me was the culprit of all the success that I'd had in any one of these environments. So that was the time that that follow-up guy was born. We basically said, you know what, let's go start dominating the real estate there. We wrote a book, we got a planner out, started producing content via newsletter every single week, haven't missed since then, and just creating other types of supporting content, rolled out some new offers here in the new year, and we're growing, man. We're in the trenches, brother. So trying to just compress that as fast as I could. Again,
Is it real estate? Is that your niche with the follow-ups, or are you spanning industries?
No, sorry. When I say real estate, what I meant is to own that part of the real estate in terms of the mental real estate on the follow-up side, right? So if like you're looking at follow-up as if it was actual real estate, I want to go own that. So when people think about follow-up, they think of that follow-up guy. That's what I was trying to say.
I mean, I don't know of anybody else that's doing it, but we were just talking before the podcast, and it's fascinating because you're literally just coaching someone through something that's very, very simple, but we often forget the importance of follow-up. So like maybe talk us through, like, what are you working on with people when you're coaching them, and what are some of the things that you're taking them through?
Yeah, so we've kept iterating to refine our message and make it even more simple and more clear. So I think like this, right? Big problem, simple solution. And what we find is that a lot of people don't have the structure, they don't have the system, and they don't have the process to execute daily. And a lot of the issue is that people think that they know how to follow up properly, but in reality, their familiarity to follow up doesn't mean they're actually excellent at it or necessarily even close to being a master at it. And so because they think they're better than they actually are, they actually don't treat it as a priority like they should. And so it ends up becoming a secondary or third tier type of item that they need to do next. However, that being said, so when you look at what we've built so far, the tools that we've created, our flow, how we help people is we line up 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I meet with my group at 3 different time slots during the day. I meet with them at 8 a.m., noon, or 3 p.m. I've got the excuse out of their way that says, oh, I can't come if it's only at 8 a.m. No. Okay, then you can come at 12 or you can come at 3. Perfect. Then once we're in that hour, we follow a structure within that hour. And in addition to that, with our planner, because our planner is a structure itself, it's a playbook. We follow the structure that we built on the inside of the planner so that people have the framework of what they need to do to drive their follow-up every day. So that solves the structure piece. Then you look at the system. Well, the system, as I see it, is predictability and repeatability. Well, if you're showing up 5 days a week with me as the leader there, and you're doing the work daily, 5 days a week, and you know what you're going to be getting into because you're following the structure inside the planner and you're following the structure inside the hour that we work, you're going to have some predictability alongside the repeatability. So we've solved for the system piece. And then the process, we've got process built into what it is we do from the planner itself, because you can follow the planner and still forward progress deals through different stages. But we also work on some of these things in real time, right? So if somebody's at step A and they need to get all the way to Z, or step 1 to infinity, from whatever point that takes, a process is just put one thing after the next to get to what your end goal is, right? So we make sure that we push every opportunity like that through And that's in essence what we're doing for these people so that they don't let their follow-up fail them, or they stop following their stop failing their follow-up. That's basically the way that we look at it, right? I joke and I say, hey, give me an hour a day. I'll keep your follow-up excuses away. Give me an hour a day. It's that easy. And man, we've got some wins that are happening daily, and
Share some of
we're
those.
thrilled
Yeah, I'm
about
so
it, man.
curious. Like, you tell me, talk to me. So my second question is always talking about like production or top line revenue, but like I'd be curious to just hear some of the improvements you've seen happen in some of your clients' lives. I'd be really curious to hear about it.
But I think a lot of it too that we've allowed for them is just a place to find um, a recreation or a revival on something that they know that they've been failing themselves on. And from an identity level, it's reminded them that they've given up on this thing and they're resuscitating it to some extent. So we don't discount anything like that, right? Because a bigger piece of this is that I also look at it like there's failed leadership in this category too. So not only do we have the place to come call home, an essential command center, we're also adding other elements that make you the person that believes that your follow-up will work because you're terrified that you're going to get rejected. You're terrified of being avoided. You're terrified of being too pushy or sounding desperate, right? So there's a human element to this. There's a psychological element to this. So we count all these wins. But look, for example, we have a client, Lisa, who saw me speak a couple months ago, decided to invest in the program, and she was sitting on a gold mine within her own database already, and she didn't think like I help other people think what they're already sitting on and how good that is. And so they were trying to go out constantly generate new leads and get new business. But my focus is, hey, what are you already sitting on? What's your acre of diamonds right now? What's your 3 feet from gold story? And so for her, in her case, they were a small business in Southern California. They have a pallet wholesale company, and they were hovering right around $50,000 consistently in their business. A couple years in, they're not that big yet, but only from going to look at her current database, they've now hit their biggest revenue months the last 3 months consecutively each month at almost $30,000 above what their previous best was. So now they're at about $80,000 consistently month after month after month now, and they've done it 3 times in a row. And part of my goal with them was like, let's just make that consistent so that becomes a new baseline. And then once we get that over an extended period of time, then we can say, okay, we've got that recipe down. Let's increase that to get to 100K a month for you all, right? So that's one example. We've got other guys and gals that have mined their pipeline. See, I don't know how much time we have here, so let me know, but I like to do visuals. I've got this guy here. I look at it in 3 different areas. You've got a pre-sale follow-up that has to happen where you're generating new business. And then you've got somebody that definitely says, hey, let's meet. Let's talk about what you've got. That point to travel up to what I call pipeline peak, that's another point of decision where they say yes or no. And that follow-up by itself is different. And then you've got what happens when you come down off the mountain and when they say yes or no, which is there's been a sale that's been made or they've said no. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen on the post-sale side of things. I call that post-sale prosperity. So follow-up is happening at all 3 different intersections here on this mountain, right? So pre-sale, you're climbing up the mountain. There's a lot of follow-up there, different type. Then you have pipeline peak. There is, hey, we met, we're doing our discovery. What happens after that to go to decision? And then once you come off the decision, you've got a whole set of follow-up that has to happen down there where you can capitalize on existing customers, referrals, testimonials, social proof, case studies, all types of things like that. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on about how we've had people that have had micro wins to people that have had new client wins. We just had someone today in our call at 12 o'clock, about an hour and 2 hours and 20 minutes ago, talk about her new client that she just got today, contract signed, sealed, delivered. And again, it's all from these activities, man. I'm an activities guy. A process guy. Let's do the work. The work will produce the results. Now, obviously, depending on where people are at, Andrew, some people come in with a little bit more of a hesitation. Okay, my goal with them is just to get them in motion. Let's get them out of inertia. Let's get them taking some action so the work starts to work for them. Now, if other people are already excelled and they're at a different level and they've got results, maybe we might try something more strategic in terms of our approach with what it means to do in terms of the messaging. So it just depends a little bit about where each person's coming in at and what's unique to their situation, because it's never a one size fits all, more about what does it take for you to know that you're a real person with a real pipeline. And as a result of that, we're unlocking what you need to do next. And we keep driving it every single day. And it is something we do 5 days a week, man. It's no joke. We take it seriously. I love it. That's the thing, man. when I go back to what I was saying earlier about that moment that I had that decision where I was like, oh, follow-up was the thing for me that I always did really well, whether it was with celebrities, whether it was Fortune 100 to 1000, in any environment that I played well in, it was all because I loved following up at a level that it was so much, and I say this, it was a game to me. It was such a game to me, and that's where I was like, oh, I can't be beat here, man. Like you just can't beat me. So that's when we made that decision. So every day we get to show up and do this, man. It's just like cracking another code, man. It's like, this is the Big Hitter podcast, right? It's like suiting up in that baseball outfit, man, putting that jumbo bat in your hands, and taking a big swing at that fastball coming in right into the middle of the strike zone, belt high, and you're going for the fences, man. This is the game I'm playing.
Is
So
there a trend, Manny, you see with your clients? Are they typically business owners? Are they in tech sales? Like, is there a trend or a niche that you see?
we're funny enough. So we're not a industry focused company yet. We are a problem focused company. So we are solving the problem of follow up. That means that we are able to serve in different industries. So right now we have a pretty eclectic mix. We've got small business owners, we've got sales professionals that are working for inside companies, we've got agents from real estate, we have business owners that are a little larger size, depending on what their employee situation looks like. So it can just depend, right? Because at the end of the day, the question is are you following up? And if you're not, well, I have a place where I can help you focus on it, concentrate on it, and make it the core of what we do in that hour. So at least you have some momentum every single day. And I tell everybody all the time, I say, we don't have to bite the whole elephant every single day, but if you made a little progress every single day, that stuff adds up over time, just like the gym, right? If you went to the gym for 1 hour and you were focused and you weren't over there watching yourself in the mirror and checking out the chicks over in the corner and flexing your biceps, but you actually worked out for 1 hour every day, focused, not distracted, dude, you wouldn't recognize yourself in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, right? A year. You wouldn't be the same person. It's the same philosophy. So I go back to simple, man. Simple, right? Give me an hour a day. Keep your follow-up excuses away. I'm all fired up, man.
That
You got me all damn fired up, man. Got me fired up.
Hey, man, I'm just letting you roll, bro. I'm just here. I'm just a fly on the wall. So I time and energy freedom. So we talked about this. The Bennett brothers walked with me through a very tough time, and that's how we met. But so I talked about my trip to the mental health facility because my first business, I was stuck inside a business I hated. I picked up a copy of a book called Buy Back Your Time. I had never seen my time like that. So time and energy freedom is a really big deal to me. Like what does it mean to you, and how are you either pursuing it or maybe seem to have found it?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I think a lot about the journey because I only can speak from experience. For me, I've had a lot of freedom, right? I've had a lot of fun. And when I tell you, and let me say that from like not from a trap that I felt like when I was in a mental prison and I was like really running from a life, but I think there's a paradox there where I got to live this great life, have a lot of fun in Las Vegas, have a ton of experiences, go party, festivals, nightclubs, day clubs, all that stuff, right? So that was a lot of fun, a lot of freedom. The trap was I wasn't fully living up to who I really knew I could be or was destined to become, right? So that's kind of the trap. And so what happened was I was trading this great time. I was getting paid to do very little. And so I had this really unique inversion of like this experience of life, right? From an experience standpoint, I was rich. From a financial standpoint, I had terrible habits. I was gambling all the time. That was my ticket to get rich. I had these desires. I wanted to become something more, have a bunch of money, but I only knew how to trade an hour for $1, right? So that was a very backwards type of thing for me. And then I got into this whole sales game. And I said, okay, if I got to get any decent opportunity to make a lot more money and get better, everybody always told me sales was the first thing to do. So that's what I did. I said, okay. And we got into the game. And early on, it was a lot of at bats, but not necessarily all the wins in the beginning. A lot of learning, a lot of development, just going through the curve of growth. And it wasn't until, several years after starting that I started making, for me, from not having to trade time with money, but from my own skill set, I started making 10, 20, $30,000 a month. And dude, for me, that was like wealth because I didn't come from money, right? I never knew how to make more than, a couple bucks an hour with some tips at the nightclub or the restaurant and as a busser at times. And for me, that wasn't real money, but I got clean and I got sober and I learned how to turn my time and my energy into a skill set that allowed for me to go sell a product and make a commission off that and come back and say, well, dude, it only took me 1 day to make $30,000. Like, that's pretty damn impressive. Like, so for me at that time, I then had another version of this thing. So then I was really free. I had time, dude. I was like, oh, but I didn't have the part of me that knew that on my own terms that I was capable of doing a whole hell of a lot more. So I have this very unique sequencing of these different experiences where I've and responsibly, I can tell you that I was too comfortable there where I didn't go out. I was making good money and I was able to chill. I wasn't using the time like I should have been because I didn't really know how to course correct that on the inside. But because me, my wife, our family, we're always on the grow in every area of our life, I realized like I was selling myself way short of what I could have been. And I knew that I had these points of envy and jealousy and frustration that I wasn't doing what the other guys were doing that I would be admiring and watching. And I was like, okay, I'm bitter because I'm not fully maximizing who I can be. And so now that I'm in the business building mode, the brand building mode, I've realized that I'm free and liberated because I'm doing the thing that I love to do the most, even though it's stressful every day and I'm building it every day and going through the process of creating it to what I want it to become. But it doesn't feel like a strain. It doesn't feel like it's sucking life from me. So energetically and time wise, I'm exactly where I need to be, right? This is exactly what I asked myself for, but the picture looks different because it's not what I was doing when I was making 20, 30 grand a month in a couple days and having all the freedom to random my life and go over here and do this and that and travel and not produce at the level that I knew I was capable of. And it certainly was when I was working in the nightclub, right? So it's had these three evolutions. And today, that's what it is, man. So I walked into the office maybe a month ago. And I think the night before that, my wife and I were like laughing because she's like, dude, as much as you're going through right now, she's like, you wouldn't have it any other way. And I walked in the office the next day. I got out of my car, and you know it better than anybody. In the beginning days, you're really beating up all things to get this thing moving, and you ask yourself questions. You question what you're doing because we're human, and then you sit there. For me, I sat there for a second before I walked in the office, and I said, "Man, she was right. I am so happy here doing what I'm doing. I would not want it any other way." Man. So that's the answer. It's not a direct answer. It's got a kind of an evolution to it, but that's what the real essence of it is for me, brother.
That. Let's talk about AI. How are you using it and where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really on the top of my mind is AI agents moving forward to take over, or at least to test out some of what these future follow up sequences and activities could be in a post early days business development role for me once we grow. So I think that's kind of very much on top of my mind, and I've got some very big eyes on it. But as far as like what I'm doing right now, I mean, just a lot of the simple fundamental stuff on the AI side. We do a lot of trainings. It's like as a core example, it's like taking the training and uploading it into AI, letting it transcribe and spit it back out in a way that allows me to use that for repurposing. Right. So like those types of simpler things that would take me you know, what would feel like a decade in the past, but days, right? Just to synthesize what all that meat is and do those cumbersome things that in any other case they would have been um, just huge time sucks in the past. So I use it for those types of things, and I certainly use it for brainstorming stuff too, right? So I like to generate thought there because that's how I work, right? If I spit something into it and I ask it for some type of feedback or it gives me some type of an idea, I can start to build off of that or run with it. And so in those simpler cases, that's where we're at heavily right now with how we're implementing it into what we're doing.
Love that. And then where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
Where do I feel like I could be using it that we're not? I'm sure there's a lot of places, to be honest with you, right? I mean, there's always that thing. I think that we're going to eventually end up getting there too, as we continue to look to make things better. But if I was to say, there's probably a chance I could be a bit more aggressive, like I just said, maybe putting some different AI agent personnel in place, possibly to see what that looks like sooner. but we're still figuring some stuff out in this early
Yeah.
day process, right? So I don't have enough efficiency yet with consistency with a long enough duration attached to it to say that that would make sense. Um, we're still trying to crack codes on making sure that we get enough people to buy consistently every day from some of the other approaches that we're taking, right? So we're learning a lot of this in real time, but I think that that would definitely be something that that would offload some of the workload that we've got right now in terms of just making sure that the smaller things are getting checked off consistently without any real thought that goes into it.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Now is your chance. Is there anything that we haven't talked about? A hot take, a cause, a book you just wrote? Is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Man, I think something I like to say a lot, right? Follow up is not what we do; it's who we are. Okay, can't expect to follow up if you don't know how to follow through. And I believe that's a function of who you are as a person. What's your identity? Okay, and everything that we do revolves around whether it's a thought that you have, whether it's a job that you want to go get, whether it's a female friend if you're a male and you want to get married that you want to go and find that next version of your life with. Everything is rooted in follow up, right? And if you understand that premise and you understand that it's really hard to fail yourself even if you don't necessarily know what to do with your follow-up or how to do it properly, but if you just stayed in the game long enough and you were persistent over enough period of time, that eventually a lion's share of the people will get you what you're looking for. Because if there's one thing that I know to be true, it's that persistence wears people down and eventually they want to give you a shot because you just didn't give up and you just didn't quit. And any good human being, that's why I said good, not some shithead, is going to understand that you've earned that right. So if I can say one thing to finish this off, it's just to make sure you keep going. Do not quit, right? You can obviously improve subtleties, nuances, those things. But at the minimum, just keep going. And I'm telling you, man, that's been kind of the story of my life. And whether it's with you or David or any other person I've ever crossed paths with, where let me add this because it's very important. If it was worth it to me, let me say this again so you all hear me. If it was worth it to me, it was worth me following up. So you have to be very specific about what it is that's most important to you, what's really worth it to you. And when you understand what that is, in some cases, like most people will get this more than anything, when they really want to find love and they want to find that partner, that spouse, they will follow up and go through walls to show that person that they're serious about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So that's the key. People want that love so badly in their life that they're willing to go through what it takes to follow up consistently. So you got to figure out what that same connection is to other areas in your life that will pull you through strong enough so that you don't give up too soon. Going back to what I said earlier, 3 feet from goal, right? You just right there, man. Just keep.
I think that's one of my biggest takeaways, Manny, honestly, from this is like, I think about this all the time, and I can't remember where I got this. I think it was Hormozy, but he's like, it is way easier to get one of your existing clients to buy something from you than it is to go find a new client. And I think about that a lot. Like, we uncover opportunity with our clients all the time. And you're probably right. I'm sitting on a gold mine right now, and I didn't even know it. And so I love what you're doing. And honestly, like I'm leaving this podcast. I'm like, dang, I'm fired up. I need to go follow up with some people, you know?
That's right, man. Yeah. That's right.
Hey, if people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Yeah. So thatfollowupguy.com or on social media at thatfollowupguy, all of them. And then we also have a newsletter that we roll out. We're actually about to finish up a 90-day questions theme right now in the next 2 weeks. So that won't be going on after this, but we do a weekly newsletter and that's called That Follow-Up Fix. So if you just go to thatfollowupfix.com, you'll have access to, if you subscribe, you'll have access to all the newsletters that we've historically posted since September. I believe September, yeah. So those are the 3 main hubs.
Awesome, Manny. Thanks so much for joining us today. And yeah, I got a lot out of it. So thanks for taking the time.
Oh, man. Of course, brother. My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.